The moment the oxygen mask dropped from above, gravity vanished. The cabin lights flickered wildly, a suffocating strobe accompanied by piercing alarms and the uncontrollable screams of passengers around me. This wasn't ordinary turbulence. The plane was like a stone cut from its string. Plummeting without warning from 30,000 feet, my body was pinned to the leather seat by the seatbelt, my organs feeling like they were about to squeeze out of my throat. As an M and a lawyer, my professional instinct was to find order in chaos. But in the face of death, order is extremely fragile. I instinctively turned to my side in that moment. I didn't need logic, didn't need clauses, I just needed to hold my husband's hand. Mark was sitting next to me. We had just gotten past the honeymoon phase of our marriage, and this was supposed to be our sweet journey home from Miami to New York. Mark, my voice trembled, fingers grasping at the air, trying to find that warmth I had relied on for 8 years. But he didn't look at me. That 1 second seemed to stretch infinitely, turning into a slow-motion silent film. I could clearly see Mark's face deathly pale, but he didn't take my outstretched hand. His hands gripped his phone tightly, his thumbs frantically tapping on the screen at an astonishing speed, as if racing against death itself. Was it survival instinct or a final goodbye to family? Due to the violent banking of the plane, my gaze inevitably swept across his lit-up screen. Under the crushing pressure of fear, my senses were abnormally heightened, every single pixel as clear as if etched onto my retina. The recipient's name displayed Jessica. She was my college roommate, my best girlfriend, and now a lifestyle blogger with millions of followers on social media. The text was only 2 lines, yet it shattered me more completely than a plane crash ever could. If I don't make it, the insurance beneficiary is you. The account password is in the usual place. I love you. If you ask me what it feels like for your heart to stop beating, that was probably the moment. The plane was still shaking violently. Urgent instructions came through the captain's broadcast. People around me were praying, others were crying, while I, in a deathly silent despair, watched my beloved husband, in what he thought were his final moments of life, give his assets, his secrets, and that heavy, "I love you," all to another woman. And that woman was my sister. Ironically, I hadn't even had time to digest this enormous absurdity when the plane suddenly jolted hard, then miraculously leveled out. The roar of the engines became steady again, and the cabin lights stopped flickering. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just passed through a patch of severe clear air turbulence and have now resumed normal flight. The captain's voice carried the exhaustion of having narrowly escaped death. Crying and applause erupted in the cabin. Mark seemed to snap out of some kind of daze, quickly locking his phone screen and placing it face down on his thigh before turning to look at me. His forehead was covered in cold sweat, his eyes betraying a terror and guilt of someone who had just come back to their senses. "Monica, God, are you okay?" He finally reached out, trying to grab my ice-cold fingers. That was terrifying. I thought we were done for. I looked at that handsome face I once thought I knew so well, my stomach churning. Just seconds ago, this man had planned a future without me in his last words. I pulled my hand back, the motion stiff and cold. "I am fine." My voice was so calm, it felt foreign even to myself, just a little nauseous. Even after getting off the plane, that nausea still followed me like a shadow. Mark didn't seem to notice anything off about me, or rather, he was too focused on hiding his own panic. While waiting for our luggage, he even tried to lighten the mood with his usual humor. "Looks like it wasn't our time to die. Guess God still wants us to enjoy a few more years of Manhattan life." I didn't respond, just mechanically watched the luggage carousel rotate. My brain was rapidly switching from wife mode back to lawyer mode. This was the ability my professional training had given me. When the emotional system crashes, the rational system forcibly takes over. I pulled out my phone and called Jessica right away. "We're going to the notary office," I said to the other end of the phone, my tone flat, just in case. "It is better to make a will. You can be my witness." From the other end came Jessica's signature, slightly exaggerated, high-pitched voice. "Monica, what are you talking about?" "I just saw on the news that a flight hit severe turbulence. It scared me to death. Are you and Mark okay? We're on our way back to the city?" I cut off her performance. "See you later." Mark was walking beside me, and when he heard my words, a hint of unease flashed across his face. He reached out and put his arm around my shoulders, his tone carrying a touch of reproachful affection. "Don't scare her," earlier on the plane. "I didn't want to worry your parents or my mom since they're all getting old. So I wanted to send Jessica a message to explain things. She is the person we trust most besides you, isn't she? What a perfect excuse. If it were the old me, I might have actually believed it." "Yeah." I stopped in my tracks, looked him straight in the eyes, and pulled a perfectly standard social smile. "The person we trust most." Mark seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. He kissed my forehead. "Don't overthink it, honey. I was scared too just now. When we see Jessica later, she's definitely going to scold me for not taking good care of you." I suppressed the urge to vomit on the spot and turned to walk toward the black sedan that had long been waiting by the roadside. The car merged into Manhattan's congested traffic. Mark sat in the passenger seat, head down, replying to work emails. Or something else. I sat in the back, watching the city skyline recede outside the window. This city is built of steel, concrete, and countless secrets, and my marriage, which had once been my warmest refuge in this cold city, now seemed like nothing more than a foundation long since hollowed out by termites. When we arrived at our apartment building in the Upper East Side, Jessica was already waiting there. She was wearing the latest trench coat of the season, her makeup so immaculate, she looked ready for a street-style shoot at any moment. Seeing us get out of the car, the anxiety in her eyes was almost overflowing. But I could see clearly that in that instant, her gaze fell on Mark first, the look of someone confirming their possession was safe. Only then did she rush up to me and give me a suffocating hug, her perfume so overpowering it made me dizzy. "Oh my God, Monica, you nearly scared me to death." She let go of me, then turned and punched Mark on the arm. "You too. What is with the last words text? How unlucky can you get?" Mark gave a cooperative, bitter smile. "Aren't we fine now? Besides, if something really had happened, I trust you could have helped us sort out all that mess." Just because of this, Monica was sulking with me in the car earlier. Mark joked with a laugh, his tone so casual as if it was just a little playful spat between husband and wife. Jessica rolled her eyes at him, then affectionately linked her arm with mine. "Oh, come on, Monica's just too sensitive." But then again, who wouldn't be scared in that situation? Let's go. I booked a table. Let me treat you to calm your nerves." Watching the effortless interaction between the two of them, that unspoken understanding that needed no words. The last glimmer of hope in my heart was extinguished. They made no effort to avoid suspicion, didn't even need to pretend too hard in front of me, because in their eyes for these 8 years, I had always been the fool kept in the dark. After returning to the apartment, I used the excuse of being too tired and went back to the master bedroom alone. Lying in bed, I closed my eyes, but those words still danced before me. "The insurance beneficiary is you. I love you." I took a deep breath and pulled out the iPad from my bag. Mark wasn't someone who was tech-savvy, or rather, he was too overconfident. Although our devices had separate accounts, for the convenience of sharing family albums, his phone and this iPad at home were logged into the same iCloud family sharing group. More importantly, he never thought I would check up on him. Because I was that calm, confident Monica who never stooped to snooping, but I am not anymore. I heard Mark's voice coming from the living room. "Is Monica asleep? Then I'll walk Jessica downstairs to get a cab. Be right back." The moment the door closed, I sat up, my fingers swiping rapidly across the screen. My heart was racing, but I forced my hands not to shake. As a lawyer, I knew the importance of a chain of evidence. A glimpse of that text wasn't enough in court. In the division of assets, I needed more. I didn't go through his texts or WhatsApp. That is where amateurs get caught. I opened the system settings, went into screen time and checked his most used apps. Then I tapped on an icon disguised as a calculator, something I'd learned from handling a few divorce cases. Password, I tried his birthday. Wrong, my birthday. Wrong, I paused for a second and entered Jessica's birthday. Unlocked. It was like opening Pandora's box. The stench that hit me nearly drowned me. It wasn't just an ordinary private album. It was a complete parallel universe. In this universe, there was no Monica the wife, only Mark and Jessica as soulmates. With trembling hands, I tapped on the earliest entry. The timestamp showed 8 years ago. Back then, I had just met Mark at law school, and Jessica had been my inseparable roommate since undergrad. I remember that day. I excitedly introduced Mark to Jessica, hoping my best friend would give her blessing to my love. The photo on the screen was a candid shot. The background was the school library where I was sleeping face down on the table, with thick law books beside me. But the focus of the shot was Mark and Jessica's hands. They were holding hands under the table, fingers intertwined. The caption was from Jessica's perspective. "The bookworm fell asleep. Does this count as cheating right under her nose?" "So thrilling," Mark commented below. "Shh, don't wake the princess. Your place tonight." My blood froze instantly, a chill shooting up my spine straight to the top of my head. So from the very beginning, this had been a dance for two, and I was just the audience member footing the bill. I kept scrolling down, my fingers moving faster and faster, but my heart growing colder and colder. Countless photos, countless videos. They hid in the kitchen kissing after my birthday party. They got a room next door at the hotel on the night mark, and I got engaged. even during the time I was busiest preparing for the law firm partnership exam. They went on vacation to Cancun together, telling me it was a business trip for Mark, while Jessica claimed she was going to gather inspiration. In the video, Jessica was wearing the bikini I gave her, sitting on Mark's shoulders, laughing without restraint. If Monica knew we were here, would that serious face of hers crack? Mark held her up indulgently. Don't mention her. What a buzzkill. It is just us here. It wasn't just physical betrayal, it was a slow, agonizing torture of my soul. I found a hidden folder called Roast Session. It was full of Jessica's all-around mockery of my life, and Mark was the most loyal yes man. Look at the wedding dress she picked, so conservative like a nun. What a waste of that $50,000. This was a video Jessica posted the day I tried on wedding dresses. She was going on about the merger details again today. Boring as hell. Being with you is so much more fun, babe. This was a voice message Mark sent her on the night of our wedding anniversary. Even today, just before the plane took off, Jessica posted a selfie from the first-class lounge. So she was on the same flight in a different cabin. With the caption, I really want to come over to you right now, but she is in the way. Just hang in there. It'll be fine once we get to New York. So that is how it was. So in their eyes, I wasn't just someone to be betrayed, but a laughable, boring tool used to provide financial support and social status. Mark needed my family connections and high salary to maintain his Wall Street elite facade, while Jessica enjoyed the twisted thrill of stealing what her bestie had. For the past 8 years, I thought I had the most perfect friendship and love, but in reality, all I had was a sandcastle built on lies. Click, the sound of the door lock turning. Mark was back. I quickly airdropped the most damning evidence to my phone, then cleared the background history and put the iPad back in its place. My movements were fluid and seamless, so fast that even I surprised myself. Perhaps this is what they call the greatest sorrow being the death of the heart. When sadness reaches its peak, all that remains is absolute rationality. Mark pushed open the bedroom door and saw me still sitting on the bed, wearing his usual gentle smile. Why aren't you asleep yet? Are you still scared? He walked over and tried to hug me from behind. His breath brushed against my ear, carrying that familiar aftershave scent. But at this moment, all I could smell was the stench of decay. I instinctively turned away, dodging his embrace, and got up from the bed. I am going to get some water, I said coldly, my voice hoarse. Monica, he seemed to notice my coldness and looked at me with some confusion, with my back to him. I dug my fingers hard into my palm, using the pain to stay clear-headed. I couldn't explode now. I had too many assets tied up with him. We also had a vacation house in the Hamptons being renovated, one I had paid for in full, meant to be a gift for our 5th anniversary. It was my dream home, but now it had become the biggest irony. As a lawyer, I knew every minute and every second right now was crucial. I couldn't tip him off before I was ready. I was going to make him leave with nothing. I was going to ruin them both, and I was going to take back everything that belonged to me. I am fine. I took a deep breath and turned around, my face already wearing an impeccable mask. Just still jet-lagged. You go to sleep first. I want to go to the study to handle a few emails. Mark looked at me, a hint of scrutiny flashing in his eyes, but it was ultimately defeated by his arrogance. He believed his perfect wife was still that workaholic who only knew how to work. All right, don't stay up too late. We still have to go to the office tomorrow. He yawned and turned to go to the bathroom to shower. Listening to the sound of water coming from the bathroom, I walked into the study and locked the door behind me. I opened my laptop and connected to the law firm's encrypted VPN. My fingers flew across the keyboard, not handling work emails but drafting a document. It was the draft of my divorce agreement. At the same time, I sent a message to my private investigator. I need 2 people investigated, full background check, focus on financial transactions and hotel records. The names are Mark Walker and Jessica Davis. After finishing all this, I leaned back in the leather chair, looking at the dazzling night view of Manhattan outside the window. The city was still brilliantly lit, as if nothing had happened. But I knew that the life belonging to Monica Bennett had been completely torn down and rebuilt tonight. Since you treated my life as a joke, I'll show you what a real joke from hell looks like. Early the next morning, when Mark got up, I was already fully dressed, wearing a sharp, dark professional outfit, holding a black coffee in my hand. So early, he was a bit surprised. Yay, there is an urgent and a case to handle. I lied calmly, as natural as breathing. By the way, about the renovation of that Hampton villa, the contractor said there is a key structural issue that needs confirmation. If you are busy this week, I can stop by and take a look. Mark's hands paused for a moment while tying his tie. Then he smiled and said, "That is great. The company's been doing layoffs recently, so I really can't get away. I'll feel relieved if you go. After all, your taste is always the best. The best taste, yeah, except when it comes to picking men. Don't worry, I took a sip of bitter coffee, my eyes cold. I'll handle it nice and clean. He kissed my cheek and left without noticing a thing. Watching his figure disappear into the elevator, I picked up the phone and dialed a number. Hello, is this Miller Construction? This is Monica Bennett. Regarding the renovation plan for that house in Hampton, I have some changes. No, it is not about rushing it. I looked at the expressionless woman in the mirror and said, word by word, I want you to tear it down. Except for the load-bearing walls, I want the inside turned into rubble. Don't leave me even a single floor tile. The Hampton morning carried the distinctive salty, humid scent of the Atlantic. This is the backyard of New York's elite, where every mansion symbolizes wealth and status. And ours, to be precise, the one I paid for in full, sits in a prime location, with an oceanfront view. That was the symbol of success Mark had always dreamed of. He had countless times held design blueprints, excitedly planning where to build the infinity pool, where to put his cigar cabinet, where the wine tasting room specifically for entertaining Wall Street partners would be. Now, this white modernist villa was being cordoned off with yellow warning tape. Miss Bennett, are you sure you want to do this? Mr. Miller. My building contractor looked at me with confusion. He was holding the authorization letter I had just signed. The hard finishes here are only half completed, all using Italian imported marble, and the cabinets are custom made from Germany. Now tear everything out. I wore sunglasses, the sea breeze blowing up the hem of my trench coat. I looked at that floor-to-ceiling window that had just been installed. Through the glass, I could see the emerging outline of luxury taking shape inside. Yes, Mr. Miller. I handed him a check. The amount enough to shut him up and make him execute the order without complaint. As I said, I am completely sick of this design style. I don't want to see any trace of the old plan. Completely sick of was a very precise choice of words. All right, since this is your decision. Mr. Miller shrugged, turned and waved at the workers behind him. Guys, get to work, it is demo day. With the first loud crash, the sledgehammer slammed hard into that marble television wall that had just been built. Bang, stone chips flew everywhere. The sound echoed through the empty villa, each one like a hammer striking my eardrums, but strangely I didn't feel heartbroken. On the contrary, as those expensive stones shattered and fell to the ground, I felt that pent-up resentment in my chest that had been building for a full 24 hours finally found a small outlet for release. Is this what they call destruction therapy? I walked inside, avoiding the flying dust. The workers were confused but highly professional. The sounds of electric drills and hammers rose and fell one after another. I looked at the room that was originally planned to be Mark's cigar room. He once said he would hang photos of himself ringing the bell at the investment bank there. The walls of that room had been smashed through, exposing the rebar and pipes inside. Here, I pointed at the master bedroom wall, the Venetian plaster finish that Mark had insisted on using, every square meter costing a fortune, and here, that walk-in closet, tear it all down. That closet was originally half reserved for Mark's custom suits. Miss Bennett, this bathtub is carved from a single piece of stone. A worker asked hesitantly. Smash it, I said coldly, 2 hours later. The originally exquisite and luxurious mansion interior had become a complete wreck. The floor was covered with broken bricks, splintered wood, and twisted metal studs. The expensive imported flooring had been pried up, piled in the corner like open wounds. This is no longer the Ocean View villa everyone envied. It is now a giant, expensive dump. Just like my marriage, I stood in the center of the ruins, took out my phone, and snapped a photo. The picture was a chaotic mess of gray. Only the sea outside the floor-to-ceiling windows in the distance was still blindingly blue. I didn't send it to anyone. Just saved it to that encrypted folder named Revenge, before leaving on a load-bearing wall that hadn't yet collapsed. I used the red spray paint I'd prepared long ago to write a single enormous word. Liar. The red paint dripped down the rough cement wall, shocking to the eye. Like a bleeding scar. After finishing all this, I drove back to Manhattan. On the way, I got a call from Mark. Honey, how is it going? Is the renovation going smoothly? His voice sounded a bit tired, with noisy background sounds, like he was at some kind of cocktail party. Very smoothly. I looked at my cold eyes in the rearview mirror. Big changes, but I am sure you'll be pleasantly surprised. That is good. Oh, by the way, for my mom's charity gala this weekend, which dress are you wearing? She specifically told me to remind you that a lot of big clients will be there this time. So you have to look presentable. Eleanor Walker, Mark's mother, an old-fashioned socialite with the word decency carved into her bones. She has always valued family reputation above all else. Though polite to me, she always carries that hint of scrutiny that old money families have toward nouveau-riche lawyers. Don't worry. I gripped the steering wheel, a cruel smile curling at the corner of my lips. I've already prepared a special gift, very decent. That is good, love you. Mark hurriedly hung up the phone. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. Yay. I am also looking forward to that moment. What expression will you have when the decency you care about most is torn to shreds? For the next 2 days, I acted like a model wife. I ironed Mark's tailcoat for him and even thoughtfully helped him pick out cufflinks. He had no guard up against me, and even praised me in front of Jessica for becoming more gentle and virtuous lately. Jessica posted a photo of her newly done nails on Instagram, with the caption, "Some things, though, they don't belong to you now, will be yours sooner or later. Patience is a virtue." I liked it. Yes, Jessica, patience is a virtue. Saturday night, the Walker family estate in the Hamptons was brightly lit. This was a typical high society charity gala. Long tables were draped with pristine white linen tablecloths, crystal chandeliers refracting brilliant light, champagne towers soaring skyward. The guests were either rich or noble, including not only business elites, but also many partners and executives from Mark's company. Mark wore the black custom suit I had prepared for him, looking elegant and charming. He held my arm, weaving through the crowd, basking in others' compliments. "This is my wife Monica, the best M and a lawyer in New York." When he introduced me to a fund manager, his face was full of pride, the pride of owning a high-value accessory. I smiled and made small talk, poised and graceful, impeccable. Mrs. Eleanor came over, wearing a deep purple velvet evening gown, the pearl necklace around her neck gleaming with a soft luster. "Monica, you look quite nice today." She still had that reserved demeanor. "I heard the house in the Hamptons is almost finished. When can you take us for a tour?" "Soon, Mom." I still called her Mom, my voice sweet. Tonight I even prepared a special gift for Mark to celebrate our house being finished. Oh, Mark seemed pleasantly surprised. "What is it?" At this moment, the gala reached its climax. Mrs. Eleanor gave a speech on stage, thanking everyone for their support of the charity fund. The lights focused on the center of the stage, all eyes gathered there. I waved my hand, and a waiter came over carrying a huge tray. On the tray sat that iconic orange Hermes box, tied with an exquisite ribbon. The people around let out soft gasps of admiration. At occasions like this, publicly giving expensive gifts was a routine way to show off love and wealth. Mark's eyes lit up. He thought it was a limited edition watch inside, or some other expensive accessory. "Open it and have a look, darling." I stood beside him, my voice gentle, yet loud enough for the circle of people around us to hear. "This is my summary of our 8 years together." Jessica was also there. As Eleanor's so-called social media consultant, she stood not far away, holding her phone ready to live-stream this moment. I saw a flash of jealousy in her eyes, but mixed with curiosity. Mark smiled as he untied the ribbon, and under everyone's gaze slowly lifted the lid. His smile froze on his face. There was no luxury watch in the box, no luxury goods. There lay a thick stack of documents, bound in a hardcover booklet. On the cover was a high-definition enlarged photo. It was an image of him and Jessica passionately kissing on the beach in Cancun. Next to it lay the exquisite jade bracelet, a family heirloom that Eleanor had given me when we got married. There was also a copy of bank transfer records, clearly showing every transaction he made to Jessica for buying luxury goods. On top was a divorce agreement that had already been signed. The crowd around had been waiting to cheer, but now fell into a deathly silence. The photo was too clear. Even people without glasses could recognize the man and woman in it at a glance. Mark's hands began to tremble violently. Even from 2 meters away, I could see the veins instantly bulging on his forehead. "Monica, what is this supposed to mean?" His voice sounded like a drake being strangled by the neck, hoarse and terrified. "The meaning is simple." I dropped all my smiles, my gaze sweeping over him and Jessica, who stood not far away with a deathly pale face like a blade. "I don't like things that have been dirtied by others, whether it is a person or a house." I pointed at the bracelet in the box. "This bracelet is too precious. I am afraid it has been touched by someone filthy, and wearing it would disgust me. Returning it to you, Mrs. Eleanor." Mrs. Eleanor's face instantly turned ashen. She stared fixedly at the photo in the box, her body swaying, nearly fainting. "As for you, Mark, I took out my phone from my handbag and lit up the screen, showing that photo of the ruins. Go take a look at our new home. I think the way it looks now matches your character perfectly. A pile of ruins. The whole venue erupted in uproar. At that moment, time seemed to slow down. I could clearly see everyone's expressions. Mrs. Eleanor's carefully maintained mask of decorum completely shattered. She clutched her chest, her gaze darting frantically between me and Mark, finally freezing on that scandalous Cancun beach kissing photo, the shame and fury nearly suffocating her. The guests around us, those usually impeccably dressed Wall Street elites and society ladies, had all become spectators to this high society scandal. Whispers spread like a tide, countless gazes trained on Mark like spotlights, scrutinizing, mocking, and eager to distance themselves. Is that Jessica Davis, that influencer? Someone recognized the woman in the photo. Oh my God, she is right there. Everyone's eyes instantly turned to Jessica in the corner. Jessica's hand, which had been holding up her phone for a live stream, froze in midair. She clearly hadn't expected this fire to spread so fast and so fiercely. Her face was paler than her champagne-colored dress. The comments in her live stream were probably blowing up, but she couldn't even bother to look right now. Monica, what the hell are you doing? Mark finally snapped out of it, trying to close that damn box, his voice trembling with panicked rage. This is my mom's charity gala. Can't you save whatever this is for when we get home? Go home? I let out a cold laugh. Not loud, but with a bone-chilling edge. Go to which home? Our apartment that you used for your affair, or that Hampton villa I've already smashed into ruins. You trashed the house. Mark's eyes went wide as if he'd heard some fairy tale. It is my house. I can do whatever I want with it. I looked around, my gaze finally landing on Mrs. Eleanor, my tone polite yet brooking no argument. Sorry, Mrs. Eleanor, for ruining your dinner party. But I am a neat freak, and some garbage, if not cleaned up publicly, I am afraid I'll get sick. With that, I didn't give anyone a chance to argue and turned to leave. My high heels struck the marble floor, making crisp click sounds, each step like stomping on Mark's heartbeat. Monica, you stop right there! Behind me came Mark's furious roar, along with Mrs. Eleanor's finally unhinged shriek. Mark, what on earth is going on? Who is that woman? Then came a chaotic commotion, as if someone was trying to intervene, someone was taking photos. I didn't look back. The moment I walked out of the manor gates, the night breeze brushed against my face, and I took a deep breath of cool air, satisfying. Hell yeah, the pleasure of lancing open that festering abscess buried deep in my heart with one cut was simply addictive. I didn't just want a divorce. I wanted to make him pay. In this circle, reputation is currency. After tonight, the name Mark Walker would be permanently tied to labels like cheating scumbag, kept man, and not just stupid but vicious. I got into the Uber that had been waiting and headed straight for Manhattan, but I knew the battle had only just begun. Back at my Manhattan apartment, the first thing I did was change the door lock code and call building security, showing them my property documents. This apartment was explicitly mine according to the prenup, informing them that Mark Walker was no longer a resident here and was prohibited from entering. Then, I started packing up his stuff. I didn't cut up his clothes or throw them out the window like in television dramas. That would be too undignified and might constitute destruction of property, causing trouble for my upcoming lawsuit. I just called a few movers and had them pack up all of Mark's personal belongings, suits, watches, that pile of expensive cigars, everything into the cheapest black garbage bags. Where should we deliver them, ma'am? The worker asked. To a self-storage unit in Queens. I handed them an address. Shipping costs collect. That was the cheapest. Worst conditioned warehouse in all of New York. No climate control system, just rats and dampness. Those custom suits were thousands of dollars each. After staying there for a month, would probably only be good for rags. At 2 in the morning, my phone started buzzing like crazy. As expected, it was Mark. I hung up directly and blocked him. Next was Jessica's number, hung up, blocked. Then came unknown numbers, one after another. I simply turned on airplane mode, connected to Wi-Fi, and opened Instagram. Sure enough, number Hampton's dinner scandal, number Jessica homie record number had already started blowing up on social media. Quite a few guests who were there had secretly filmed videos and posted them online. In the videos, my line, "I don't like things that others have dirtied," was being shared like crazy. But public opinion hadn't completely swung to my side. Jessica reacted fast. As an influencer who knew the rules of the internet inside out, she didn't choose to stay silent. She chose to play the victim. She had posted a video half an hour ago. In the video, she wasn't wearing makeup. Her eyes were red and swollen, wearing a hoodie that looked very homey and vulnerable with a pale wall as the background. I really don't know what to say, she choked up in front of the camera. Tears sliding down perfectly on cue. Mark and I have known each other for 8 years, even before Monica. We used to be soulmates, but he was forced to give me up for a family-arranged marriage. All these years, I've been silently enduring the pain, watching them show off their love. I admit I was wrong. I shouldn't have stayed in contact with him after they got married, but is love a crime? Tonight, Monica publicly humiliated me, even printing out my private photos and distributing them to everyone. This is blatant bullying. This is slut-shaming. She is using her status as a lawyer and her power to try and destroy me. The comment section below had already exploded. Although many people were calling her a homewrecker, quite a few fans who got swayed by her narrative and uninformed passersby started sympathizing with her. True love is innocent, even if her approach was wrong. There is no need to go this far and destroy her completely, right? That wife looks so fierce, publicly putting someone on the spot like that. Way too aggressive. So it was a wealthy family's arranged marriage that sacrificed true love. That guy's pretty pitiful too. Either way, exposing intimate photos is illegal, right? Support Jessica in fighting for her rights. Looking at these comments, I laughed out of sheer anger. True love, family-arranged marriage. Mark's family is just some declining middle-class old money. If my parents hadn't invested in him, his company would have gone bankrupt long ago. The so-called soulmates were nothing but a pair of overgrown babies who haven't been weaned yet, keeping each other warm. And she actually dares to bring up bullying. I sat up from the bed and opened my laptop. Since you want to play the public opinion game, I'll play with you to the end. This time, I am not just the plaintiff, but also the judge and executioner. I logged into a Twitter burner account I'd never used before, named Truth Excavator. I have even juicier dirt. It was stuff pulled from Mark's iCloud, evidence that Jessica not only cheated, but was also suspected of defrauding her fans. She'd always branded herself as an independent woman recommending so-called affordable gems. But in reality, in her private chat logs, she called her fans brainless suckers and broke losers. There was also a recording, a conversation with Mark after she got drunk. Those stupid fans, they believe whatever I tell them. I wouldn't even dare to take those whitening pills myself. Who knows if they're toxic? But as long as they're buying them, I am making money. Once I've saved enough money, I'll ditch them completely and travel the world with you. I compiled this recording, along with her chat screenshots full of insulting language and evidence that she knowingly seduced Mark despite knowing he was married, explicit texts with dates, into a long post. The title was simple and brutal, the true face of a certain independent woman influencer, knowingly being a homewrecker, insulting fans. Fake persona, click send. Then I called a friend of mine in media circles. Hey, Sarah, still up? I've got a big exclusive here, a follow-up on that shit show at the Hamptons tonight, plus some juicy dirt on Jessica Davis. Interested? An excited voice came from the other end of the phone. Oh my God. Monica, I am scrolling through Twitter right now. I knew you wouldn't just let this go. Send it over. Tomorrow's headline is yours. Hanging up the phone, I poured myself a glass of red wine. Outside the window, Manhattan's night view was still captivating. Tomorrow would be the demolition day of Jessica Davis's career. When I woke up the next day, my phone's notification bar was already crammed with all kinds of messages. After a night of intense discussion and speculation, Sarah's report, like a depth charge dropped into deep water, completely ignited public opinion. The headline was sensational yet accurate. The lies behind the glamour, the double life of influencer Jessica Davis. The article not only detailed the timeline of Jessica knowingly being a homewrecker, but more crucially, it exposed that recording of her calling her fans brainless suckers. For an influencer who survives on the fan economy, moral failings might still be whitewashed with true love, but insulting the very people who put food on your table. That is digging your own grave. I sipped my coffee while scrolling through the comment section under Jessica's Instagram. The tide had completely turned. And to think I looked up to you as a role model for women, bought so much of the garbage you recommended, turns out in your eyes I'm just a broke loser. Disgusting. Being a homewrecker, destroying your bestie's family while pretending to be an independent woman. Why don't you go win an Oscar? Unfollowed fan turned hater. Give me back my money. Her follower count was plummeting at a visible rate, dropping by several thousand with each refresh. Meanwhile, the brands that had collaborated with her were also starting to post statements on their official accounts, announcing the termination of partnerships and reserving the right to pursue legal action for damage to their brand image. Meanwhile, Mark wasn't having a good time either. Wall Street is a circle with no secrets, especially when it comes to reputation. At 10 in the morning, I received a call from the legal department at Mark's company. The tone was polite but distant, informing me that Mark had entered a suspension and investigation process due to violating the company's moral clause. The moral clause is a common provision in investment bank executive contracts. Any behavior that might damage the company's reputation could lead to termination, and that disastrous scandal at the charity gala had undoubtedly crossed the line. At noon, my doorbell rang. Through the video doorbell, I saw Mark's haggard face. He was still wearing his formal attire from that night, except his shirt was now completely wrinkled, his tie crooked to one side, and bluish stubble had sprouted on his chin. He looked like a homeless man. "Monica, open the door. I know you are in there." He pounded on the door. "We need to talk." I opened the door but didn't let him in. Instead, I leaned against the doorframe, holding a freshly printed document in my hand. "If you are here to pick up your belongings, they're already at a warehouse in Queens. Here is the pickup slip." I handed him a piece of paper. Mark didn't take it. He stared at me fixedly, his eyes bloodshot. "Are you insane? You really threw my stuff in a place like that? And that stuff online. Was that you? Do you have any idea you've ruined Jessica and ruined me?" "Ruined you," I sneered. "Mark, get your cause and effect straight. You two ruined my marriage first, ruined my trust. I just made the truth public. That was my mom's dinner party. You've made me the laughingstock of all New York. Now the company's going to fire me. Do you know what that means? All these years of hard work down the drain," he screamed hysterically. "You brought that on yourself." I didn't back down one bit. "When you decided to send that suicide note to another woman, you should have known this day would come." Mark took a deep breath, seemingly trying to suppress his rage, and switched to a pleading expression. "Monica, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden it from you. Shouldn't have, with Jessica. But we really were just emotionally dependent on each other. We never meant to hurt you. Can't you, for the sake of 8 years together, put out a statement to clear things up? As long as you say the evidence was fabricated, or it was a misunderstanding, I can keep my job, please. This is for your own good, too, if I am unemployed. How am I supposed to pay your alimony?" Hearing this, I almost wanted to applaud his shamelessness. Even at this point, all he could think about was using me to save himself alimony. I slapped the documents in my hand against his chest. "Wake up, Mark. This is a formal divorce agreement. According to our prenuptial agreement, if you are the party at fault, you'll leave with nothing, and given that you transferred marital assets to a third party, Jessica, during our marriage, I've already applied to the court for an asset freeze order. Also," I leaned in close to him, staring into his eyes, and said word by word, "that apartment you are living in now, even though it is under your name, the down payment was a loan from my parents. The IO is still in my hands. Get ready to sell the place to pay off your debt." Mark was completely stunned. He looked like a puppet whose soul had been drained, his face pale as paper. You planned all this," he murmured. "I am a lawyer, Mark." I turned to close the door. "Don't challenge me in my area of expertise." Just as the door was about to close, a hand suddenly reached in and blocked the gap. It wasn't Mark, it was Jessica. She had rushed out from the stairwell at some point, hair disheveled, face without makeup, completely devoid of her usual polished look. "Monica, you bitch!" she screamed, trying to lunge at me. "Why did you do this? You ruined my career. All the brands are demanding compensation for breach of contract. You did this on purpose." I took a step back, nimbly dodging her nails. The building's security arrived at that moment, 2 burly men restraining the crazed Jessica. "Let go of me. I am Jessica Davis. I have millions of followers." She was still struggling. I looked at her pathetic state, not a ripple of emotion in my heart used to. I corrected her. "Now, you are just a debt-ridden defendant. Wait for the court summons, Jessica. All that money you used to buy bags and plane tickets, it is all marital property shared between me and Mark. I'll recover every single penny." Jessica stopped struggling. She stared at me with wide eyes, genuine fear finally showing in them. "Take her away." I waved at the security guards, watching them get dragged away like stray dogs. I closed the door and let out a long breath of relief, but this wasn't over yet. I was going to completely sever all ties. I took out my phone and dialed my father, Dad. "Monica, what happened?" I saw the news. My father's steady voice came through, tinged with a hint of worry. "The news is true. I am filing for divorce." I tried to keep my voice steady. "There is one more thing, that angel investment you made in Mark's company back then. Doesn't the contract have a key man clause? Yes, if Mark no longer holds a core management position or if his personal conduct seriously damages the company's interests, I have the right to withdraw the investment. My father was a seasoned businessman and immediately understood everything. What do you want me to do? Divest? I said firmly. I don't want my family's money to provide even a single cent of support to that fraud anymore. Understood. Father didn't ask a single unnecessary question. I'll have legal handle it immediately, baby. Are you okay? I am fine, Dad. I looked at the bright sunshine outside the window. Better than ever. I hung up the phone and started packing. New York may be big, but for me, this place was already filled with too many terrible memories. Every street corner, every restaurant, even the smell in the air reminded me of those wasted 8 years. I needed a fresh start. My eyes fell on an email on my desk. It was from the head of the firm's London office, inviting me to be a senior partner in M&A there. Before, because Mark didn't want to leave New York, didn't want to leave his comfort zone in Jessica, I had been hesitating and never replied. Now, nothing could stop me anymore. I opened the email and clicked reply. Dear Mr. Smith, I accept your invitation. I hope to start as soon as possible also. I am looking forward to London's rain. Sent successfully, I closed my laptop and looked around this place that was once called home. All the photos had been put away by me. Every trace of Mark completely erased. This place had turned back into a model unit, empty, but clean. Goodbye, New York. Goodbye, that foolish Monica. I grabbed my suitcase and walked out the door without looking back. A new life was waiting for me. The rain in London is different from New York. It is denser, more dreary, yet carries a kind of magic that calms you down. It has been 3 months since I came to London. No one here knows me as that wife who publicly tore apart her cheating husband, and no one points fingers at me behind my back. Here, I am Chloe Bennett, the sharpest and most efficient a lawyer at the London branch of a top American law firm. My life runs like clockwork. At 7 in the morning, I am in my Canary Wharf office sipping coffee while reviewing case files. Mornings are spent negotiating with old-school English gentlemen speaking in Oxford accents. Afternoons, I fly to Zurich or Frankfurt to meet clients. Evenings, I handle emails in my apartment by the Thames. This high-intensity work leaves me no time for sadness, let alone reminiscing. My brain is filled with complex clauses and astronomical transaction figures, which makes me feel incredibly fulfilled and safe. Monica, you have to come to tonight's celebration dinner. My new boss, a suave British partner named Arthur, knocked on my glass door. That cross-border M&A deal went so smoothly thanks to you. The client specifically asked to thank you. Arthur, I smiled in response. I'll be there on time. The celebration dinner was held at the top-floor restaurant of the Shard. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the entire night view of London spread out before us. I was wearing a deep blue satin gown, holding a glass of champagne, standing by the window. At that moment, I suddenly thought of that night in the Hamptons, that villa full of ruins. Back then, I thought I had lost everything. Now it seems I just got rid of a burden and gained a wider world in return. What are you thinking about? Arthur walked over and handed me a fresh glass of champagne. You look like you've got something on your mind. Nothing. I raised my glass in acknowledgement, just thinking that leaving the comfort zone actually doesn't feel so bad. Is this what they call rising from the ashes? Arthur smiled, a hint of admiration in his eyes. By the way, there is some news from New York. I think you might be interested, or maybe not. My heart skipped a beat, but my expression remained unfazed. Oh, about what? About your ex-husband's case. Arthur took a sip of his drink. You know, even though we're in London, news in legal circles always gets around. I heard he lost his lawsuit in New York. Expected. I said indifferently, not just that. Arthur continued, because your father pulled his investment plus him getting fired from the investment bank, his financial situation completely collapsed. The court ruled he must repay the marital assets he transferred and the down payment loan for that apartment. I heard he has filed for personal bankruptcy restructuring now. Hearing this news, I didn't feel the wild joy I had imagined, only a calm sense of the dust finally settling. That is what he deserved, I said. What about that influencer? I couldn't help but ask. Even worse, Arthur shrugged. The penalty fees from the brands were astronomical. She not only sold all her bags and cars, but was also sued for emotional distress by several fans she had insulted. I heard she is now doing some not very respectable live streams to pay off her debts. Not very respectable live streams. I could pretty much guess what that meant. Jessica had always been someone who would do anything for vanity. Before, she had me as her sucker and Mark as her backup. Now that both ATMs were gone, she could only sell the only capital she had left. Good for them. I turned around, looking at the glittering Tower Bridge outside the window. They're finally truly together now, locked in poverty and mutual resentment. Is this the best revenge? Arthur asked. I looked at the confident, elegant me reflected in the glass and smiled slightly. The best revenge is that I am living better than before, while they no longer deserve to be mentioned in my conversations. After the dinner ended, Arthur insisted on driving me home. The car stopped downstairs from my apartment building. Monica, Arthur stopped me as I was about to get out. I know you just went through a bad relationship, and maybe it is not appropriate to say this now, but I really admire you. Not just as a colleague, but as a woman. I froze for a moment. Looking into Arthur's sincere blue eyes, I realized that although my heart still had scars, it wasn't dead. Thank you, Arthur. I didn't refuse, nor did I immediately agree, but I need some time right now. I enjoy the freedom of being alone more. I understand. Arthur nodded like a gentleman. I'll wait. Like the rain in London, it always stops eventually. Back at the apartment, I turned on my phone. As if possessed by something, I unblocked Jessica's Instagram side account. I knew she definitely had a side account for venting her emotions, just like how I knew about Mark's side account back then. Sure enough, I found a new account with only a few hundred followers. The latest post was a photo. The background was a cramped, messy basement room, with takeout boxes and cheap beer cans piled up in the corners. In the photo, Mark was slumped on the couch, holding a bottle of cheap whiskey, his eyes vacant, his hair greasy. Long gone was any trace of the Wall Street elite he once was. The caption was full of venom. This is the true love I wanted. This is the man I gave up everything for. No money, no job, only knows how to drink and curse at people. God, how was I so blind back then? Give me back my youth. Give me back my money. Below was a comment from Mark, which also looked like it was posted while drunk. Shut up. If it wasn't for your insatiable greed demanding those designer brands, if it wasn't for you forcing me to send that text on that plane, would I have ended up like this? Get out and make money. Don't forget, you still owe hundreds of thousands in debt. Watching this dog-eat-dog drama unfold, I couldn't even muster the interest to hit like. This wasn't my story anymore. This was two losers struggling in a cesspool. I closed my phone and walked out onto the balcony. The rain in London had stopped, the air moist and fresh. I took a deep breath, savoring the taste of freedom. I had an important M in a negotiation tomorrow, and I needed to be well rested. As for those old faces and old affairs in New York, let them rot in yesterday's garbage pile. I am Monica Bennett. My future has only just begun. Time is the best plastic surgeon, and also the cruelest judge. 2 years was enough to make London my second home. With several impressive cross-border M&A deals under my belt, I smoothly secured the title of senior partner at my firm, becoming the famous Iron Lady of London's financial circles. My life was fulfilling and busy visiting exhibitions on weekends, catching shows in the West End, occasionally hiking the Scottish Highlands with Arthur. Arthur had kept his word. He'd been waiting for me all along. His patience and respect slowly nourished my once parched heart like spring rain. Our relationship now hovered somewhere between close friends and lovers, warm and comfortable, without deception, without secrets. Until that phone call from New York shattered the peace. Monica, we need you to come back for a bit. It was the managing partner from headquarters. There is a major tech company restructuring case involving both the UK and the US, and you are the most suitable person for it. Plus, the signing ceremony and celebration reception will be held at the Met. We're turning to New York. This time, I was no longer that divorced woman who fled in disgrace, but returning in glory as the law firm's ace. The moment I walked out of JFK Airport looking at the familiar yellow taxis and the bustling crowds, my heart was surprisingly calm. It was still as noisy here, but I already had armor hard enough. The signing ceremony was very successful. My professionalism and competence once again earned the client's praise. That evening's reception was held in the Temple of Dender Hall at the Metropolitan Museum. Beyond the massive glass curtain wall was the night view of Central Park, and the temple's stone pillars appeared solemn and majestic under the lights. I wore a silver white haute couture gown, sharply tailored, accentuating my current confidence. Holding champagne in hand, I chatted and laughed freely among the crowd. A slightly husky yet familiar voice that made my spine stiffen came from behind. I slowly turned around, although I had mentally prepared myself that I might run into old acquaintances in New York. I didn't expect it to be here, nor did I expect him to have become like this. Mark stood by the service corridor not far away. He was wearing a suit that was obviously ill-fitting and somewhat worn, probably picked up from a thrift store, or perhaps a survivor from back then that I hadn't thrown away. His hair had thinned considerably, his hairline had receded, and his face showed obvious puffiness and bags under his eyes with a look of long-term frustration, sleaziness, and anxiety in his gaze. He was no longer that spirited Wall Street elite. At this moment, the badge hanging on his chest showed that he was a temporary supervisor for an outsourcing company handling the logistics of this cocktail party. Fate really is a humorous screenwriter. He was an honored guest at these kinds of high-end cocktail parties, swirling a wine glass in hand while pontificating about the world. Now he was the service staff watching from the corner to make sure the champagne tower didn't collapse. "Mark," I called his name flatly without any emotional fluctuation, as if calling out to a stranger. You are back." He looked at me, the light in his eyes extremely complex. There was shock, amazement, and even deeper regret and greed. "You look so beautiful, more beautiful than before." He tried to approach me, but was stopped by the bodyguard beside me, whom Arthur had insisted on assigning to me. "Keep your distance," the bodyguard said coldly. Mark stopped awkwardly, rubbing his hands together. "Monica, I know I don't have the right to talk to you right now, but could you give me a few minutes? Just a few minutes. I want to apologize to you. Really, I've been reflecting on things for the past 2 years, and I know how much of a jerk I was back then." "Reflecting?" I raised an eyebrow. "Reflecting in the basement, or reflecting while hiding from debt collectors?" His face turned the color of liver. "You found out. Yeah, I got what I deserved. That Jessica, she is an absolute psycho. After we got married, she turned our home into a complete mess, racked up a pile of credit card debt, and blamed me for being useless. We fought every day, even got physical. I've already separated from her now, and we're in the middle of getting a divorce." Hearing the word married, I couldn't help but laugh. "Congratulations." I was sincere. After all, a bitch and a dog are a match made in heaven. Weren't you too ready to die for true love back then? How did you end up here too? "Monica, don't say that." Mark put on a deeply pained expression. "I know I was wrong. Only now do I realize that you are the only one in this world who was ever genuine to me. Those days we had were so good. Could we still what?" I cut him off. "Remarry, start over." A glimmer of hope ignited in his eyes. "I know this is hard, but I'll change. I may be down and out now, but I still have experience. As long as you are willing to help me out, put in a word with your dad, or introduce me to some connections, I can definitely make a comeback. When that happens, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Looking at that face of his, I only felt it was utterly absurd. Even at this point, all he could think about was using me to turn his life around. He never loved me. What he loved were the resources and conveniences I could bring him. "Mark," I took a step closer to him, looking down at him condescendingly, "take a look at me now, and then take a look at yourself." I gestured at the elegantly dressed guests around us, then pointed at the cheap work badge on his chest. "We're not in the same world anymore. 2 years ago, the moment you said you wanted to give the insurance money to Jessica, you already killed the Monica who loved you. As for helping you," I sneered, "why would I help a murderer who tried to kill my soul? Please get out of my sight. If you don't leave, I'll have security throw you out as a harasser. I think that way, you won't even be able to keep this temp job." Mark's face instantly turned deathly pale. Looking into my resolute eyes, he finally understood that the woman who used to obey his every word had truly and completely vanished. He opened his mouth as if wanting to say something more, but in the end nothing came out. Like a stray dog, he hung his head and slunk away into the service corridor. Watching his figure disappear, the last speck of dust in my heart was finally swept away. So it turns out letting go of someone isn't about forgiving them, but when you see them again, your heart feels no ripples. You just find them pathetic. Ran into someone you know, a warm, gentle voice sounded by my ear. Arthur walked over, holding 2 glasses of wine. He had flown here specifically to accompany me to this reception. Just a passerby I used to know. I took the wine glass and gave him a bright smile, not important anymore. Arthur seemed to notice something, but he didn't ask further, just gazed at me tenderly, whoever he was. He missed out on the greatest treasure in the world. Just then, the music in the hall became soft and slow. "Miss Bennet, may I have the honor of a dance?" Arthur extended his hand like a gentleman. I looked at him, at this man who had stayed by my side, respected me, and supported me during my most difficult times, with pleasure. I placed my hand in his palm. In that moment, I knew my new life had truly begun. No longer sustained by the thrill of revenge, but by the richness and love within my heart. The dance floor spun, lights glittering brilliantly. Outside the window, New York's night was still enchanting, but I knew, whether in New York or London, As long as I was strong enough, anywhere could be my home turf.